I don't know what it is with this season, but I've been getting some trash teammates that have been forcing things on offense, centers bringing down the ball and not playing defense, and I've had enough. It's time to do it myself. So I made a build that would be a game changer on the defensive end of the floor, being that ultimate disruptor in the mold of Amen Thompson, Alex Caruso, Tari Eason, heck even Draymond Green play that connector on defense and offense. But here's the thing. I'm still averaging 21 points per game on my worst offensive build at these insane shooting statistics while averaging a decent amount of steals, rebounding, and passing the ball. And sure, a number of these are just catch and shoots, basic stuff that any build can do, but I've developed an offensive system for low speed with ball and ball handle builds that will have you scoring like crazy in combination with this build's insane athleticism. So what's the vision for the build? Again, I want to be that ultimate disruptor on the defensive end of the floor first and foremost. Let's slow this down a little bit. I've controlled basically the middle to the left side of the floor, tagging this man who was going to dive for a roll, and then playing 1-on-2 defense, making sure that I can now rotate towards the corner three-point shooter now that I know help defense is in play, but then baiting that passing lane. So basically just me controlling one side of the floor and being that ultimate disruptor. I've just been annoying as hell on ball and getting a lot of pluck steals, a lot of lane steals, and still facilitating on offense. Just take a look at these types of defensive plays that this build can do. And just check out the insane amount of space that I was able to cover in this possession right here. I'm damn near by the free throw line, able to cover that distance towards the corner spot of the floor. Insane. And while this build is my worst offensive build among all of my builds, I'm still able to cook with a low ball handle and speed with ball build with this offensive system, which I'll have the tutorial later on. Same time, we've got the baseline covered from just shooting catch and shoots and being that athletic freak that can finish over defenses. Rebounding the ball, transitioning from defense to offense, we can do that. Making these types of passes, while you have to be safe, this build can ultimately execute these types of passes under the right situation. Battling on the boards and contributing to winning that way. And let me tell you, man, just being able to harass players from a full court perspective and just try to stop whatever they can do, it's been absolutely amazing to affect winning this way while still being able to contribute on the offensive side of the floor, even though that wasn't the main intention of this build. So I had this dude on lockdown, even able to guard a lot of these point guards, although there are some challenges in terms of screen navigation. That's just, I think, a big weakness in 2K25, screens being so overpowered. But just take a look at the gambles that I can take with this build, essentially stopping that possession full stop. And I swear, man, I didn't make this build with offense in mind. I just wanted to have the baseline function on offense checked, but this build even surprised me at the stuff that it can do. So stay tuned for the build details, and this video is going to be different from my other videos because I'm going to give you a full build walkthrough on how I conceptualize this build, the alternatives that you might want to consider if you want to make it a more balanced defensive build and a more proficient offensive build. But if you looked at my builds over the past year, they've been shades of mostly the same type of build. I wanted to get weird and get different with this build. It's still not going to be a meta lockdown. There's still some challenges in terms of screen navigation, as I mentioned earlier on. But for the most part, you'll be dominant as that utility player that can do everything without having to make major sacrifices which could cripple your offensive ability or your physicals. So the next section will go through the exact build and its details, and in the final section I'll give you a tutorial for a low speed with ball and low ball handle build. So hope you enjoy the video. There's gonna be full gameplay and more detailed gameplay snippets in the subsequent video, but first let's go through my vision for this build. Alright, so the inspiration of this build is you want to be a disruptive defender, sort of like your Amen Thompson types, your Tari Easons, your Alex Caruso. That's why we're choosing jersey number 1 right here. We're going to put this build at a small forward. 6'7" is your height, 7'1" is your wingspan, and your weight is at 213. So initially this build was supposed to be a power forward, but I didn't want to run the risk of maybe getting put in center for whatever weird reason. So we're keeping it at small forward. Maybe 3 out of the 4 times you play a game in rec, you'll be playing as a small forward, but 1 out of 4 times will be assigned as a power forward. Okay, so at the core part of this build, we're just gonna max out our speed and agility first. This will allow you to be disruptive on the defensive end of the floor, maxing out our strength at 85 as well, while putting our vertical at 75 so that we can get silver posterizer, bringing our driving dunk up to an 87. Now, I debated, using my bringing my driving dunk up to an 88 and then using my cap breakers that way to bring this to 93 to get gold posterizer, but that would require putting vertical to 80, which was too big of a cost. But there are also benefits to putting your vertical at 80 on the defensive end, especially on rebounding. That's going to be crucial as well. But what we settled with was 87 driving dunk. We're going to be a dynamic finisher. Close shot and driving layup are going to be as low as possible. Now, 67 is not good. It's also not too bad, but you're going to have to know your limits, especially when you have to dunk the ball. You want to be sure that you're in position to dunk the ball and not get stuck in a physical animation that will suck you into that layup animation. In that case, you won't get too much success. But the theme for this build is to know your limits and know when to test and push those limits depending on your skill and your opponents. Okay, so this is what we settled with for our physicals. Again, you're going to be flying around the court with that 90 speed, 86 agility, and with using our slice takeover, which will boost your driving dunk, making you that much more of a dynamic finisher. But also the benefits to speed and agility will just allow you to fly through all over the court, and this raises your floor on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So what I do recommend is to put that slice takeover on. There are other good takeovers related to the defensive side. You can choose to do that as well. Okay, so there is one major thing I want to do with this build, and for my last builds, I want to get weird. If you noticed, all of my previous builds were, sort of shades of the similar type of build and playstyle that I really like to do, but we're gonna get weird with this build. That means we're gonna put block to an 84. Now, 68. If you want to put your block at 68, that's perfectly fine. Again, vision for this build: disruptive defender, flying all around the court, Alex Caruso, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason. And I wanted to do that with an 84 block. Just be a freak athlete and basically instill fear and disrupt the defense on both the perimeter and interior. Now, for steal, okay, here's one option. Bring steal up to an 86, use your 5 cap breakers to put that up to a 91 to get you gold glove. I think that's perfectly fine. You can also keep steal at an 85. Okay? Now, for our perimeter defense, I'm going to put it at 85 as a baseline. And then let's discuss the options as to why I chose what I ended up with my build. Perimeter defense, we're going to keep at 70. You're going to be a secondary paint protector. You can switch with a big and try to disrupt that pick and roll or those big dives to the basket. I think 70 is fine for what we aim to do. Okay, so there are a few things I did. What I settled with, and this is not meant to be a meta lockdown type of build, okay? This is not that type of video. What I settled with was a 91 steal and used my 5 cap breakers to bring that up to 96 steal so that we can get Hall of Fame glove and Hall of Fame interceptor. Okay? That's what I went with. A lot of you might think that's overkill, in my opinion, 85 steal feels really good. You can end up with this and instead raise your perimeter defense to a 92 just so you can get a Hall of Fame pick dodger, which in my opinion, if you're a primary lock, if your goal is to become a primary lockdown, I think some combination of this with your cap breakers going to steal and perimeter defense is fine. Yeah, that's one way to go about it, but what I ended up with is an 85 perimeter and 91 steal with my 5 cap breakers going to steal to bring my glove and interceptor to Hall of Fame. Okay. Next, since we want to be an all-around utility guy with this build as well, can't win championships if you don't get rebounds. We're bringing our defensive rebound to an 80. Again, just to help out on the defensive side of the floor by getting those rebounds. Next, you're gonna be a decent shooter with this build. Okay? We're gonna bring our mid-range up to an 84. And use our 5 cap breakers to bring that mid-range up to an 85 to give a set shot specialist on gold and shifty shooter and dead eye on silver. Now, bear with me for this next part. Initially, I had 3-pointer up to about 75. But I have many builds with 75 3-ball and Hall of Fame set shot specialist. It feels great. But I wanted, in order for this build to be as juiced as possible, I needed my 3-ball to be at 65. And through about 5 games, I'm shooting above 60% from 3 on low volume, about 2 to 3 attempts per game. 65 feels fine, especially with the jumper that I'm going to show you later on. Alright? But, hey, if you want to max this out, be my guest. But for me, again, testing the limits of what I can do, 65 is perfectly fine. I initially started with a 70, but then I needed all those other attributes to make this build as good as possible. So what we ended up with is 84 mid-range, cap broken up to an 89, 3-ball at 65. Okay, the next thing. This build is meant to be a connector on both offense and defense. On the defensive side of the ball, you're supposed to become that guy that cleans up other people's mistakes. Okay? So, on the offensive side of the floor, you're going to be that guy that makes that extra pass, doesn't force things. If there's a better situation for somebody else, pass that ball. And for that, ideally, you'd have a baseline of a 71. And even that's stretching it. But for this build, I had to bring it at 65. Now, I'll admit, 65 doesn't feel great. You'll get wind up animations that will telegraph your pass. So, you have to make singles with this build, not home runs, singles. That means IQ passes. That means short passes. That means handoffs. That means not testing, those full court passes. You can still make those passes with decent speed, but only if the primary defenders are not back and only if, the secondary defenders are out of position. I'll show you later on. Now, 65, if you want to bring this up to 71, be my guest. But for me, 65, that's fine. And then what I'll do is just buy passing boosts, which costs VC, but, it is what it is. Next on ball handle. We're bringing this up to 73 to get gold strong handle. Initially, that's what we want to do. And then speed with ball at a 68 to give us bronze lightning launch. Now, I thought this was going to be what we settled with, but what instead I did was to bring ball handle up to a 75. That gives us access to most of the dribble moves that are baseline what you need for this build to work. I'm talking about your Tatum dribble moves. And I have a secret Tatum system that I don't know if I'm going to share yet. Paul George dribble moves, for example, which is going to be fine, okay? And then we're going to have free throw at 60, which in my opinion is unacceptable. So what we're going to do is we're gonna take down one attribute from speed, one attribute from agility, and use our season 7 and 8 cap breakers to max that out later on. You can also add those seasonal cap breakers to driving dunk if you want. But since we don't get vertical above 75, I'd prefer to just max out your speed and agility. Now, by taking down one attribute each for both, we're gonna put this up to an 80. So we're gonna put our free throw up to an 80. That puts our standing dunk up to a 44. I forgot what the threshold was for the regular standing dunk package. If it's 45, then tweak it that way. I think that's what I ended up with, and I just want to make sure that this is accurate with the build that I ended up with, and I think it is. And when you make that build, this build will have shades of Gerald Wallace, Herbert Jones, and Alex Caruso. If you don't know Gerald Wallace was famously one of the fantasy basketball studs of his time because he could get 2 blocks and 2 steals, be that disruptive perimeter threat. Obviously, you know about Alex Caruso and how he can be a switchable defender, you know, guarding anyone from, let's say, Steph Curry all the way up to Nikola Jokic. And, you know, Amen Thompson is also an inspiration for this build, and we get shades of Herb Jones as well. So this is the build that I ended up with. Again, 5 cap breakers to steal, 5 cap breakers to mid-range. I think that will transform this build into a 2-way inside the arc threat or something like that. But I ended up keeping the wing stopper name. So this is the version that I ended up with, and let me tell you, it delivers as advertised, and in some cases, and you'll see in the gameplay, even better than expected. Alright, so now let's say you want to make a more offensively balanced version of this build. And, you know, which in my opinion, if that's the case, I prefer you just make a 6-6 or a 6-8 and then focus on making this more offensively juiced. But hey, let's say you want to keep the same template, but, you know, making it a little bit more reasonable. Let's bring down our steal to an 85, our block to a 78. What I want you to do is raise your ball handle up to an 80. What does that do? That unlocks Devin Booker animations and Zach LaVine animations, I think. Zach LaVine is at 80, right? Yeah. If not 81, then just tweak it that way. And then you can bring your speed with ball up to a 75. And in my opinion, this is probably about the baseline of what I would say a secondary creator can do. Ideally, yep, you can put your pass accuracy up to an 81. So just by making this a less defensively juiced version, you now have a more balanced version of this build. And then let's see what we can get away with, right? So let's say, yeah, that gives us I think more contact dunks by bringing that up to an 80 and vertical up to a 89 and vertical up to a 78. Right, let's just add this right here. Let's see what else we can add. I think we can gain more if we just max out our offensive rebound to as much as we can. And there we go. This is a more offensively balanced version of that build while still keeping the same shades of Gerald Wallace and Herb Jones. Now, I think this makes you a viable offensive creator, but you're still gonna be labeled as a wing stopper. So if you want to catfish people into thinking that, you know, this build ain't that on offense, this is one way to do it. Again, 5 cap breakers on the midi. Alternatively, you can use 5 cap breakers on steal, but if we want to do that, we'll lower our offensive rebound to 45. Put steal up to an 86 so that when we put the cap breakers here, that brings your glove to gold as well. That is another version of this build. I think this one you get shades of Paul George. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is customize to your heart's content. Hopefully this gives you an idea of, you know, how I want to look at making builds. You don't have to take my word for it, but this is the vision for the build. I want to make a disruptive all-around threat on defense while at the same time being still okay enough on offense and a connector on the offensive side of the floor. There are limitless customization options for this, but these are the three primary ways that I would customize this build, so have at it. Next, we're going to go into our low ball handle tutorial, show you some of those signature animations, and then let's discuss about how this build turned out on the gameplay front through about 5 or 6 games to this point. And now we got that out of the way, let's go on to the tutorial section of this build to show you my shot creation system and animations. And here are the signature animations, starting with the jump shot. So we use Tracy McGrady base, the Luba upper release 1, and Matt Ryan upper release 2. On push release at the fastest release setting, 50-50 animation blend. This is my trusty jumper. I like it for, you know, my low 3 ball builds. I think this is pretty stable. The animation cues, you can see it very clearly. A perfectly good rhythm shooting jumper. So for the dunk style, I think I used quick drop, back scratches off 2. We get pro contact dunks off of our 2-foot moving dunks. We don't get our 1-foot moving dunks on pro, but we got where I think I don't equip anything else other than contact alley-oops, Zion alley-oops, and then on the signature dunk side, we got LeBron. All right, for the rest of the animations, let's start with the dribble style. The dribble style is normal, which needs 40 speed with ball with, and I know 1,000 other YouTubers are telling you to go use Zion. Maybe raise your speed with ball to a 70 to use pro. But I'm gonna here to show you that, you know, for the basics of what we need, normal dribble style is the one you want, not Zion, normal. Okay? Because for the most part, our crossover launches are going to be tied to our shot creation packages. With the ball in your right hand, we're going to use the Delon Wright go-to shot as our crossover burst moving to our left. And with the ball in our left hand, we're going to use the Devin Booker crossover hop jumper cancel as our crossover moving to our right, effectively giving us a sort of Frankenstein dribble style where we use Devin Booker's shot creation animation along with Delon Wright as our dribble style crossover launches. Now, same side launches, we're gonna use the left stick method, and I'll show that later on. I'm really liking KCP dribble pull-up. It reminds me a lot of Clay, a little bit of Zach LaVine in terms of its look and its feel. It's also very smooth. Kobe, if you have starter 4 unlocked, is also pretty nice. Of course, Devin Booker, KD as well. Some of those alternatives. Spin jumper, you know how it is. We like our Kyle Kuzma spin jumper. And one thing about this build is that since we only get a 75 ball handle, one thing that we don't get is access to our favorite, almost essential dribble move, which is the Devin Booker aggressive breakdown. I made shot creation systems out of it like nobody's business. People over the past months have caught on and have started like claiming that the sauce is attributed to them, but see, it's neither here or there. I'm just letting you know that, you know, even with a 75 ball handle rating, will be fine. Gonna use Paul George as a regular breakdown, Jason Tatum as our aggressive breakdown combo, Paul George as our escape move, pro combo moves, Jimmy Butler as our moving cross. You can also do Paul George. Behind the back, you can do Paul George, or what we will use is actually pro. DeMar DeRozan spin, Paul George hezzy, normal triple threat style, but we'll put that on pro. And then Drew Holiday signature size up, no pass style. I have a new system out of Jason Tatum escape moves that I'm not willing to share at this point because people have started to remaster some of my tutorials and claim for it as their own. Neither here nor there. But, you know, 2K26, I'll show you that Jason Tatum combo system if the animations stay the same. Alright, so this build is not meant to be the primary offensive creator. Now, there's a version of this build I showed you earlier on that can absolutely do that, but still at a secondary role. But let's say there are situations where you need to, you know, just dip into your bag and get to the basket or get you 2 points. Well, at the core of this build is a Devin Booker hop jumper for more than just shot creation. But we already know, ball in your left hand, hold the right stick to the right. This gives you Devin Booker's crossover hop jumper. One of the best moves in the game just because it's so fast, creates at a very good angle to slip past your defenders if they're playing you a certain way, but also canceling out of it gives you access to Devin Booker's sort of dribble style, right? So now, let's talk about that dribble style. Normal dribble style gives you this. All right, you might be laughing, right? That stuff's slow as hell. I'll show you later on that it works. And why we want it to work, our goal with this dribble style is to not get past our defender. It's to cross over and then combo directly into our second move, that Devin Booker side hop jumper. This is why we choose this dribble style over Zion. So here, again, tap the right stick to the left and then launch the right. Combos quickly into your Devin Booker side hop jumper, which is our second main offensive weapon. You already know. This is one of the best hop jumpers in the game because of this. So fast, so quick to reach your apex, and so easy to time. All right, so now just for illustration purposes, we've got Zion dribble style on. Why don't I like Zion dribble style? Because of this crossover launch. It brings you forward too much, putting you into help defense's way. And although you get into the side hop jumper, take a look at the angle. It just brings you forward a little bit too much, and in certain situations there, as you can see, brings you into more to layup animation territory. We don't want this angle when we use the side hop jumper. It might be a better burst, but the angle is a bit more towards 45 degrees as opposed to 30 degrees. As you can see right there, from certain spots of the floor, instead of getting into the side hop jumper, you get into layups, which we do not like. And just to reiterate that point, take a look at the normal dribble style. It's wider, more horizontal, so it gives us more of a 30-degree launch. Right, the horizontal launch rather than a forward and to the right launch. In any case, we won't be using this dribble style too much because our actual dribble style is baked into our shot creation animations. Okay, with the ball in our right hand, if we want to cross over to the left, we're always going to use del on right go to shot. Hold up on the right stick, cancel out of it, use it as a crossover launch. And again, ball in our left hand, we're going to use the Devin Booker crossover hop jumper to burst out of it, right? Those are going to be our primary launch moves. Boom, boom, boom. Now, one issue is that without the Devin Booker aggressive breakdown, we lose one of our best tools to access some of our most advanced shot creation. So for example, by our simple dribble style spin jumper, if our Kyle Kuzma, we get an inferior branch of the Kyle Kuzma spin jumper animation. But if we use this behind the back launch, which will replace our Devin Booker aggressive breakdown, we get access to that Kyle Kuzma spin jumper variation that we like. So the pro behind the back launch will replace our Devin Booker aggressive breakdown launch. Boom. All right. Plus, the other reason why we're going to use pro behind the back is our pro behind the back escape combos really well with our Devin Booker side hop jumper. We're going to use the momentum out of that behind the back escape directly into our hop jumpers. Or, for example, not just our side hop jumper, but again, retreating step back, right? The great thing about Devin Booker's hop jumper package is it incorporates a lot of his dribble moves. So for example, if we launch out of this, directly combo into that, we get access to Devin Booker's step back, even though we can't have access to it because we need an 80 ball handle, right? So one combo that you can use the Devin Booker hop jumpers. Okay, if we do our crossover side hop jumper, boom, boom, launch out of it, there we go. And this gives you an idea of how we're going to use this build. We're just going to use 1 to 2 dribble moves. Again, we only get bronze unpluckable, right? And with bronze unpluckable, 3 dribbles is basically the most that I want you to take. And that means getting into your kill moves pretty easily. 1 dribble move, 2 dribble move. See, just 2 dribble moves into your spin jumper. Okay? Maybe you do your Paul George escape into your crossover side hop jumper. There we go. Okay, maybe you do your I think we have Vince Carter step back into your del on right into your step back jumper, for example, or del on right into your pull-up jumper. So now, even though I think the normal dribble style is more than usable and in some cases very underrated for our specific purposes, our actual dribble style is baked into our use of the Devin Booker crossover side hop jumper and our del on right go-to shot with the ball in our right hand. So just a few more combo ideas. We do lose the Zach LaVine combo move, but pro combo moves also very fast. Can use that to set up a lot of our moves right here. So now it's all about making sure that the pro behind the back is a more active part of your shot creation. If you do need to dip into your shot creation bag, like I said, 2-3 dribbles most is what I do with this build. If you're really good though, stretch it out maybe a little bit more. But that gives you an idea of how I like to use this build. I'm actually surprised at the amount of stuff I can do. With this build actually performs better on the offensive side than I'd expected. I mean, I'm still averaging 22 points and about 5 rebounds and 5 assists with about a steal and a half or 2 and about a block per game just in my 5 or 6 games at least, giving you an idea of how crazy this build goes. So there you have it. I'm only about maybe 5 or 6 games, I think, deep into this build. I got more gameplay coming to show you the full potential of what this build can do, because all of this gameplay, I didn't grind out my hot zones yet and some of my badges are not complete yet. So in this next video, I'll go into some detailed gameplay, some full gameplay as well. But I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you learned something from my vision for this build. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.